o'clock. I am calling to order the Select Board meeting of August 18th, 2025. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This media is being telecast live by Chelmsford Telemedia and being recorded for later viewing by the public. And first up, we have public service announcements.
Okay, public service announcements this evening. The Chelmsford Fire Department is holding a 9/11 remembrance ceremony. That remembrance ceremony will be on September 11th, 2025 at the fire headquarters right next to door to town offices here, 50 Billwrecker Road, Chelmsford, and that's at 8:30 a.m. Refreshments will be served following the ceremony. All are welcome and encouraged to attend. Please contact Deputy Chief Ryan Hool at 978-250-5268 or rhool@chelmsfordmass.gov. Or firefighter Albon 351-322-9467, Chelmsford Local 1839 @gmail.com. The Planning Board is seeking to appoint 2 town meeting representatives and 2 residents at large to the 2025 Managed Growth Strategy Task Force. This committee is expected to meet monthly or bi-weekly, depending on the tasks at hand. Based on the number of applications received, the Planning Board will invite interested parties to attend the September 10th, 2025 meeting to introduce themselves. If you go to the agenda that we have posted for our meeting tonight, you'll see that there's links there to go look for more information and for an application to join that committee. So the role of that committee will be select a consultant the task force will work with, meet the consultant on a regular basis, and with that consultant define the process for developing the managed growth strategy, which would include defining the problem that they're trying to solve, definition of done, goals, timeline, and metrics. You'll also be responsible for gathering data and information from various sources, including but not limiting to the Chelmsford Housing Production Plan, 2025 Strategic Plan, and other sources available. Periodically report back to the Planning Board on the progress of the Managed Growth Strategy, draft the Managed Growth Strategy, and present the draft to the full Planning Board for review and discussion. Planning Board recommends composition of this board to be 1 select board member, 1 2020 master plan or master plan implementation member, 2 strategic plan members, 1 Concom, 2 town meeting reps, 2 residents, and a community development director or advisor. If you're interested in serving on this 2025 Growth Strategy Task Force, please submit an email, letter of interest no later than September 5th, including relevant experience to Evan Belansky, Director of Community Development at ebelansky@chelmsfordmass.gov. Take the Lowell Regional Transit Authority 5-year regional comprehensive transit plan survey. This will help guide the LRTA with planning for service, coverage, frequency, and more access to transit across the region. Help the LRTA determine priorities over the next 5 years by taking that short survey. This survey you would need to again, go to the agenda for tonight's meeting, and if you see the page talking about the 5-year survey, there's a link there. Click on the link and you can go take that survey. Or I'm sure if you go to the LRTA site, it will be there as well. And that's all I have for public service announcements.
Thanks, Pat. Next up, we have general public input. And do we have anyone in the audience here for public input? No? Nobody online? Okay, just making sure.
Ask again.
I missed somebody last week. Didn't love that. Okay, next up, committee vacancies.
Okay, committee vacancies as of August 18th, 2025. The Agricultural Commission has one unexpired three-year term ending June 30, 2026. The Board of Assessors has one unexpired three-year term ending June 30, 2027. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee has one three-year term ending June 30th, 2028. The Capital Planning Committee has one three-year term ending June 30th, 2028. Commission on Disabilities has one unexpired three-year term ending June 30th, 2026, two unexpired three-year terms ending June 30, 2027, and two three-year terms ending June 30, 2028. The Council on Aging Board has one unexpired three-year term ending June 30, 2026, and two three-year terms ending June 30, 2028. Chelmsford Housing Authority has one unexpired five-year term ending June 30, 2029. The Historic District Commission alternate member has one unexpired three-year term ending June 30, 2027. The Holiday Decorating Committee has two unexpired one-year terms ending December 31st, 2025. The Military Community Covenant Task Force has one unexpired three-year term ending June 30, 2026. The Parade Committee welcomes all applicants to one-year terms ending July 31st, 2026. Permanent Building Committee has one three-year term ending June 30, 2028. Vinyl Square Strategic Action Plan Committee Business Representative has one unexpired three-year term ending June 30, 2026. If you are interested in serving on a town board or committee, please complete an online application available on the town website. For more information, please contact the town manager's office at 978-250-5202 or tmoffice@chelmsfordmass.gov.
Next up, we have reports and presentations. And we have our DPW Director, Christine Clancy, here for some project updates. Hey, Christine.
Hello, good evening. So I have some updates for you, just to go over a couple items. First is, I know we were providing, I was providing monthly updates for the ARPA, especially going into last year, because last year, December of last year was a time where we had to allocate all the monies. All the monies have been allocated, but we still have to spend them the next year or year and a half. So I'll be going over ARPA, also just kind of going over some of the projects that we're working on at DPW. I call it our backlog, and highlighting some of those current projects that you are probably aware of in the community. So for the ARPA overview, so this is through the federal allocation coming out of COVID. $10.89 million was allocated to Chelmsford. And a lot of communities use this to upgrade, infrastructure is one of the, I think originally a lot of people are using it for HVAC, for ventilation. That was the first focus. Going back to 2024, we still had a pretty significant balance and we had to allocate it. So one of the timelines was by December 2024, all the money had to be allocated. But we have until December of 2026 to spend all the money. So we've allocated everything. So across the $10.89 million that we had through ARPA, there were 77 projects created, many of them being DPW projects, but it was across the board. Sometimes some were health projects, health-related, police-related, fire. So like I said, this funding does end by December 2026. So it's important that we make sure that we're executing all the contracts that were awarded by this past December. So this is a quick update. We have 77 total projects, and we're still tracking 18 of those remaining projects. We do track monthly amount that has been invoiced, and so we're at 86% of the projects have been invoiced or spent, about $9.3 million. In looking at the 18 projects that remain, a lot of that should probably close out in the next few months. Some projects will go until next year, and that's anticipated. Our goal, we have until next December, but we want to try to close it out because that has to be completely wrapped up by next December. So obviously our goal is to complete it, preferably maybe by next summer. I don't know if it's any. I do have this, this very large spreadsheet that tracks each one. I didn't include it in here, but because I think now it's so many projects are closed out, whereas before we were doing a month-to-month tracking. But if there's any questions on it, on the program or any projects, I'd be happy to answer on ARPA. All right, so with all those ARPA projects, we just have such a large DPW backlog of projects. So what we do is we track all of our projects in a internal database, and this includes, I would say, any project. Like if you have a work order at a school, that might not trigger as a project, but so some projects are smaller scale, 15, 20,000, and then can be large scale all the way up to, we're involved in the fire station project and the Parker School feasibility. So we have right now, we're tracking 90 projects, and they're all in various phases too. Some are these are all some funding has been allocated to these projects. So we have 90 projects. These are either funded through town resources, through grants, through federal funds. ARPA is too. A lot of these were tied up in ARPA, so that's why I think it's a lot of the amount of projects we've had the past couple years, and that totals to $56 million. So it's really a considerable amount of projects that we have between capital, federal, other funding sources. And I have, again, the long list. I did not want to share the whole list, but just a lot of projects. We have a lot of roof projects right now that we are beginning, and that will continue. We have a lot of elevator projects right now that are underway. We just recently went to town meeting and had to ask for additional allocation. We have a lot of other facility site projects. This also includes our roadway and sidewalk paving program, so that it's annually. ADA improvements as well. That was a capital project that we have. This includes stormwater improvements and various assessments. So it could be a infrastructure installing drainage. It could also just be assessing. We did the watershed study. That would be one of our projects. Sewer improvements. I put II. It's infiltration, inflow removal. So we have force main assessments going on. We have the Kensington pump station. So in various phases, some are in assessments, some are in construction. I put on here fire station number 3 and number 5. It is really a larger group of people that's involved in this with the permanent building committee, fire, town manager, and Patrick Maloney. So a lot of people are involved in this, but it is something that we do coordinate as part of the 90 projects. The new Parker School feasibility study, still that's part of a larger group, the school committee. And then we also have our sustainability related projects, energy related, so all the charging stations that you're seeing being installed around town, that's ongoing right now. And then I'll also highlight our tree canopy. I know that is a strategic plan goal for the select board. So, we have been implementing various projects to try to, aligning with the tree committee. And then we just have other various on-call, like whether it be a cleaning contract. So just a lot of projects, but I find it helpful to track it. So we track it, and myself, the school committee, and Manager Cohen, we meet monthly to go over all of school-related projects, but we also kind of check in really weekly on all these on a lot of these projects. So I just thought it would be good to highlight some of those projects without going into all 90 projects. And so we always get asked about is our paving program. When are we paving your street? So we right now have $3 million in this current annual paving plan. A lot of that is funded through Chapter 90 and also supplemented through free cash allocations in capital. So that right now, as you see, a lot of the streets are being replaced. We have various treatments. We have micro sealing, which is more like what you see. If you seal your driveway, it's a little more than that, but it's more of a preventative maintenance. Then you have the mill and overlay, where we take that top 2 inches off the pavement, and then we have reclamation, where that's more involved construction, where you're rehabilitating the structural subbase. And so, example, Kensington Drive, I know, is being constructed right now. And what we do is we have a list from the contractor, and we do try to put updates. The direct abutters are notified. We hand out information, but as far as information on our town website, our town manager's newsletter, we do provide more frequent updates on where we are in construction. We're continuing with weather, knock on wood, is still favorable. So we're continuing, we see us continuing into the fall to complete all this work. It is 7.6 miles of roadway. And going back several years ago, I think we were doing closer to 4 to 6, and we've really done a lot in the past few years where it's been between 7 and even I think it was 10 or almost 12 miles, paired with some of the state efforts. So yeah, I guess, and if there's any questions along the way, feel free to ask. Another project that I think people are at, because it's very visible right near the McCarthy, is the McCarthy multi-use court improvements. This was approved at a previous fall town meeting if through free cash, $975,000. Ray Contracting is the contractor. They're right now completing the work. If you drive by, you can see it's a very active construction site. They're trying to get as much completed before school starts next week. Their work will continue this fall. And this is a multi-use court that will have 2 basketball courts, 2 deck hockey courts with the boards and everything, and a tennis court that will also have 2 pickleball courts on the tennis court. And it'll be ADA access. We have a walkway that will loop around from McCarthy towards the police station, because we also added parking in the front of McCarthy. There'll also be some added perimeter fencing. So really a nice area. And this is school property, so during the school day, it would be for the kids at McCarthy, but outside of those hours in the summer, it's another space for the community. So we're targeting fall. I think it's going to be closer to October when we're complete. Another project that is complete, and we've been tracking it for a few years, is the Kensington Pump Station improvements. Overall project cost was $760,000. There was an initial phase, $265,000. That was really to put so this is a lot of our pump stations. We only have a handful that remain where we want to make sure the equipment is put into a shed. So it's protected, easily accessible generator. And then we also put in some control valves, or submersible pumps, with improved access to those pumps as well. Myland was completed. Kensington, we're looking at doing some upgrades to 3 more stations. Clinton, Fair, I forget the third. So in the foreseeable future, we'll have all these stations, all 41 of our stations will be pretty much upgraded. We're, nearing the end of our 10-year plan. I think we have several years left, but a lot of it's more the minor pump station upgrades. This is more of a major. And then, so phase 1 has been completed over a year ago, but phase 2 was really finishing with all the vault work, the controls, the generator. And so that is just completing right now. And you can see that it doesn't look like complete because we're paving right now. So we aligned that project with our paving contract. So our paving contractor is finishing that project. I thought this was a nice project to highlight just because it is from ARPA, and it was initially going back I think I actually had it programmed in 2026-27 just because of all the capital needs. And then with ARPA, we just thought it was a great project to put on the ARPA. Gary Persichetti, our former DPW director, he is working for the DPW, and he did a great job at this project. We were able to procure the trailer. And there's a picture here. They pretty much bring in the new one, take out the old one. You have to get the connections, and we reinstall the ramp. So there was definitely some pieces to get it in, but it really was a pretty quick swap. It was over 3 days. It is slightly bigger in terms of the internal space they have. The shelving that they have is a little bigger, and they have, I think, better refrigeration units, but really the HVAC. This is a climate controlled area, and it services not just Chelmsford, it's really regional to the community. This was ARPA funded, but also we had a state earmark to supplement that funding. So in total, $138,000, and it just really went so smoothly. So that was beginning of this summer that it came on board. It was May. And last project I just want to highlight, or projects, is the town-wide tree planting effort. So going back to a few years ago, we had about 20 trees that went into the town common, which I think was a great add to the town common. And that was really through the select board, through listening sessions. So that was, aligning with the select board's goals, and I think also the tree committee's goals in the town. You know, we see that we have a declining tree canopy of about 2% a year, which is really alarming. So there's been a lot of initiatives to try to increase that. So last year, I think it was 30 trees, and this year we did a lot, 121 trees. That was a spread across various projects. So we had the Cooling Corridor grant from the dog park, which also includes a maintenance contract. So they'll water that through this fall, and again next year. That was 25 trees at the dog park. And then what you see here along Graniteville and along in various areas around the high school and the Harrington Fields was 66 trees. The Ecology Club planted 5 trees, and we also had the DPW planted about 20 trees, cemetery planted a few trees. So when you add all those trees up, it's 121 trees, which is great. We have had a tough season with, you know, the weather we've had. So you see here on the right, this is Bob. He is a tree committee member, but he's also our DPW senior volunteer. So through that project, we were able to purchase that gator you see in the background, and it's really a watering truck. It holds 100 gallons of water, and so we have 2 people involved where they go out weekly and water all the 66 trees around the high school, which really I think is, it has been a harsh climate or summer, but so you can see we might have to replace a couple, but it's been great to have that watering program, and that's really, it's so critical. Planting a tree is pretty easy, but it's the maintenance after that it's been that, and it's, so what we're looking to do is, as we move forward in this initiative, is it might make sense to plant in clusters. So there's more potential opportunities here at the high school, and so this vehicle here, this lives at our facilities shop. And so it will, the next couple of years, it will be going out and watering through, whether it be through seasonal staff or through volunteers. And then just thoughts, like, like Roberts Field, or there might be other opportunities to, again, do some cluster plantings. And it was $100,000, so a large effort, but it's really great in, trying to build back the canopy. And last project, I just wanted to go over a project that I just recently presented to the Chelmsford Public Schools. This is the electrification roadmap study for the schools. So, as you know, the town of Chelmsford has their goal of net zero by 2050, of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And so what we don't know is how do we get there? And a lot of the load is at our buildings. We have older buildings. So we had this opportunity through a state earmark to have this funding, $75,000, and we studied all 9 school buildings to basically say, let's come up with a timeline and what's the anticipated cost to do this, to meet the 2050 goal. And in that, it would have to be basically fully converted to electric systems. This was a very high-level planning report because assumptions had to be made. It's all based on industry, but I'll go over. I think it's helpful just to show that our buildings are older, so there's a large need if you are going to electrify them. And there is a full report. I just put the link here. It's a very lengthy report, has all the assumptions in there, but it is available on our website. So just quickly, the report assumptions, it went over, looked at all the existing heating, plumbing, electrical building infrastructure, also the building envelope information. That's important just because that plays key in how efficient the building systems are. We also, the consultant looked at the heating and electrical bills to understand what the baseline costs are. They reviewed our DPW operations but historical budgets just to understand what it took to maintain the existing systems, mostly the mechanical systems that we have. There was an assumption, and that's, I think it was a $36 or $40 a square foot, a capital cost based on the industry references on, and also we had information on the existing capital costs that we have expended over the past several years and what we see as a foreseeable future. So that was programmed into there. We did look at the existing solar panels. The thing here is that we already have solar panels on the building, so I guess by adding the solar panels, it doesn't really change. Sorry, there's a typo up here. Public, apologize. The roadmap it's a typo up there. And then the electrification, there's a lot of various heating systems you could propose, even electric. So we looked at air source heat pumps. That was the assumption. And it assumed that any electrical upgrades would also have to take place. All of our buildings have old switchgear systems, so assuming that those would all probably have to be upgraded as part of this electrification. So in looking at all those assumptions and all that data, what it came up with is that you would have, so there's a business as usual case right here you see on the left. And so you have an investment cost, because in 20 years we're still going to have to replace our existing gas systems. And then in that cost is a maintenance cost. What does it cost to maintain our existing infrastructure? There's a natural gas cost to operate our existing systems. And then the electricity cost, because there's still electricity cost to operate our existing systems. So then if you look at the electrified case, there's a very, very large, in the orange, increase of capital investment. So it's a difference of $41.4 million that you would have to do to invest in the electrification system, or to electrify our buildings. There's also potentially, with electric systems, sometimes there could, I guess it's industry averages say that they can be more efficient. So over the 28 years, I guess you pretend with newer systems, you would have a $3.7 million savings in maintenance costs. And then electricity, because you're electrifying everything, you would have a $10.4 million increase in electric costs in that. So there is a little, in the electrified case, there still is a little bit of a natural gas cost, because until you electrify everything, you're going to be paying for natural gas. After 2050, that would drop off. So really what it shows you is that it's just to maintain our buildings, $41.4 million is a lot, but then to add on another basically another 40 plus million for that capital investment, that's just a lot. I guess I don't know what the answer is, but it's just that's what we need to do if you were to electrify the buildings. The report also does speak to, I think our building envelopes are older, and so they're not as efficient. We did include Parker in here as the existing Parker as just a case just to look at it in its existing. I know when any new school is built will have to be electrified, and that these calculations don't pertain to a new school, because there'll be a new system, new building envelope. So I think it also shows that it's such a large capital investment and a larger electrical cost, because you have older building envelopes that aren't as efficient. Also, we did ask for a timeline, and so this is just, if you were to spend so much money a year to get to 2050, there's some recommended timeline, and Parker being the first recommendation that does align with
Is that because of the study that's
I think it was based on so partially it was also.
We did the energy upgrade to them in 18, did we not?
So part of this was based on the age of the boilers. So Parker boilers are aging, and
but
so
we did as part of the energy package.
there was some heat
pumps.
We did some, so there have been upgrades, more spot locations,
Gotcha.
but not full building. So a lot of these conversion recommended timelines align with the age of the existing systems. So Parker would potentially be that next replacement, and so that's one of the reasons why it was recommended.
And their boilers are about the oldest out of.
They are the oldest, and so that's why you see 2043 or McCarthy's 2046, and we're just about to finish the boilers right now. So we had planned it to align with our current age of our infrastructure, boiler infrastructure. So I guess the takeaway from there is that at least this is helpful, and it shows you how much you may have to spend. This is a very planning level. If you were to do anything, you would have to advance further assessment, but it just shows that you really have to have grant funding or some type of funding to help supplement that. It's a very large amount.
Go back one slide to the chart.
Yep.
Thank you, Paul. So the orangish color, that's the capital to maintain on the left and the capital for the new on the right.
Yeah, so business, so like on the left is the capital to replace our existing systems as is. And then on the right is a capital to replace with electric systems or electric systems.
So again, I know my eyes aren't that great, but if I take away the capital, those two bar charts are both the same value. So whether we stay the same, taking the capital piece out of it, just the maintenance and the cost of the energy and all that's about the same.
Essentially minus a couple $1 million, yeah.
So going forward, beyond the 2050, is there in theory any savings, or at least
I don't know
cost
if we
growth?
can project that, I guess, too, because also when we were looking at all these assumptions, it was literally based on what's the cost of electricity. So it'd be hard to project out
Definitely, right.
more, maybe. But I guess you could run another 25 years and project potentially. You could. We were just looking at the next 28 years.
Yeah, I mean, the capital's kind of that one-time cost, everything else is run rate, and you're not, I was kind of expecting that we'd see more
I guess
savings going
the
forward.
other, basically the takeaway is that you probably might want to look at building new schools.
By the time you
Thank
get
you.
that 20-year
Thank
cost
you.
savings, you might as well just build a new school and it'll be.
So
yeah,
this
Exactly.
actually
expensive in the
shows
long
that
run.
because also the building envelopes are not efficient, and the cost of electricity. So I
That's
think
why the electricity
this
cost
actually
is
was
so
very
high.
helpful in showing that if you're going to spend $41 million and then you still have all these other, look at the cost on the roofs and the elevators. So it's just how much money you're going to spend before you need a new, because these schools are aging. Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. And so
Yep.
this shows that.
That could show a different picture once Parker comes online.
So this is,
Yeah, well, no, so what she said was Parker.
Parker is included.
I know,
With
but
this,
if we-
with this
But if
second
we
graph.
took, but the new Parker school
Yeah,
is not in
this-
that
yeah.
second graph, because we don't know what those numbers are yet.
No, so we'll be getting a lot, so we just installed some, we're trying to get more data, like how efficient our electric buildings are, and so when, that will be something that we'll have a lot more analytics once, assuming the new Parker school, but it takes a while to get that data, I guess.
So
Right.
this is based on the Parker School as it is.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So arguably, it could be somewhat better.
Yeah.
Yes,
With
if
the
you,
new, with the new school.
it would
Okay.
be,
But more immediately, Christine, if you could talk about the other solution is outside funding, grant funding.
Right.
And if you could talk about the grant that you just applied for the fire stations project.
sure, yeah, so if you have grant, and so an example too is the charging stations, like, so we're installing these charging stations, $2.4 million, we would not have had the ability to fund that, but that basically National Grid's coming in and with another vendor installing that, and so it's in the end, they'll be getting more electricity and they'll be seeking revenue through the electrical, but that's a benefit right there. So if there's grant opportunities, and another example is through the fire stations, and so when we were looking at both fire stations, Station 3, which is Roberts Field, has more space, and so the thought was, well, could we do geothermal? And at first, I mean, it's an added cost. We're looking at potentially, just like ballpark, you're looking at least an additional $500,000, $600,000. But with our climate action grant opportunity that we just adopted about a year ago, we just applied through that first grant. And only 2 communities, as I understand, applied. I think it was us in Watertown. And so it's a one-time $1 million grant. And so this would put new solar panels on both 3 and 5, and it would potentially put hopefully geothermal at 3. So it would we never really, I guess, going into it, because there is a little bit added cost, we never thought making Station 3 like really truly net zero building. But if this goes through, and that $1 million would be funded by the state, through the state, through this grant, so we would have that, so we really, I think, need to have opportunities of grant funding to make it more economical for us.
That's great. That's good news.
We'll hopefully hear back soon, but it has the real estate to put geothermal.
That's awesome.
So the electrification roadmap study basically assumes that we would go to almost 100% heat pump kind of.
That's the assumption in the model, but you could look at other sources too. You could look at geothermal, depending on the location. But the analysis they did was 100% air source heat pump. That was just to run the numbers. But And I think also the electrification, there's new technologies that keep popping up. So that was based off of,
So this study is completed?
yes, completed.
Okay. Will there be any kind of presentation, or is it just that we got to go look at it and
This
it's
was the
completed?
yeah. So I mean, I can definitely give more information on it. I presented it to the school committee, and then I guess tonight. But this is essentially the
And the study includes comparative analysis of what we pay today for energy costs and
Mhm.
what these new systems would cost us, and so on, based on if we're doing the right things to the buildings.
very high level, like
Okay.
cost per square foot, and then it looked at I made an assumption on our current, what we're currently paying for electricity and what we anticipate we'll pay for electricity in the years to come. So all the assumptions are in the report. I'd be happy to give more information on the report too.
Well, let's talk about that in a minute. So the other thing I guess I'd like to say, we're calling this Chelmsford Public Schools Electrification Roadmap Study. Paul will remember this. You weren't here. Gary and I would remember this very well. We got the heck beat out of us when we did that energy program back in 2018. And, so we're looking to do more of the same with better technology, grant you. But I have same systems in my house, and if you're standing under a register, it's cool air, it's not warm air, but my house is warm. So one of my points, a couple of points I want to make here is, one, I think we should start, if that's the primary assumption, I think we should start calling it the electrification and heat pump study, whatever it is, to start to let the citizens understand that this is what we're looking at, because there's long memories in this town, and they're all going to start thinking back, okay, here we go, my kids are going to be cold. That's my concern. The kids weren't cold, everything was adjusted, we don't hear anything about it today, but, well, maybe, I don't know.
No, we don't
Paul,
hear about it
maybe
today,
Maybe
no.
we hear about it less, but it was a major problem, and this was an energy initiative that was, we got grants for. It was good for the town, it was good for the schools. But I am concerned that we need to start calling it kind of what it is. And then, so my next thing, if this is what we're looking at, and if we're really gonna get serious about being green by 2050, I mean, this is a tall order.
25 years.
It's time for a committee, to look at this and go enhance the information so that we can start to make decisions over the next couple of years as to how we're gonna meet these commitments that we made to energy by 2050. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think there should be a group of experts, starting to look at this and then starting to look at revenue sources and just all that type of situation.
I think the biggest challenge is, as Christine noted, is school buildings. Right, we're going to do the Parker School Building coming for a vote in 2 years in 2027.
Right.
And that debt will be with the town for 30 years. So the question's gonna become, what's the town's capacity going to be over the next 30 years to do more school buildings? And in what format of that? I think you can look at what's happened in other communities, but that's gonna be some serious thinking, because what's really gonna happen is we're gonna end up doing, we're not gonna be able to do 7 school building projects by 2050. And if you look at what other towns have done, particularly Tewksbury and other places, is what you're likely gonna see is continued consolidation of school buildings. So again, the Parker site's talking about taking a grade 5-6 school and making it a grade 4 through 6 school. And most likely, where you're gonna have 4 elementary schools, you're not gonna do 4 elementary school projects. You're probably gonna do 2 mega elementary school projects like you've seen in other towns. And then you gotta circle back with the high school and McCarthy. So even if you do that, you're still looking at 3 or 4 projects. But I don't know how you get to electrification in any serious form, because the town's biggest facilities are school buildings. Because think about it, everything else is dwarfed in terms of square footage and in terms of operating costs.
In need.
And that's the conundrum the town's gonna have. And you're right, we've gotta get started with Parker. And then, as you said, then needs to be a serious discussion of what's next in the queue, because Parker probably won't open till what, 2031, maybe 20.
At least 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. And therefore, and as we know from MSBA getting on the list and getting funded, you've got to be in that queue, because look how long it took us to get into the queue for Parker.
And
in
if
the
we
high
just
school.
finished one, we're less
Right.
likely to get in the queue
Queue for
that
another.
next 3,
So that's-
4, 5 years.
Right, that's gonna be the big nut, and that's why you'll see later tonight, and what we're working on is, we've gotta maintain these assets, and so when you're seeing us continue to do work in school roofs and these other things, it's not because, gee, we're just looking to spend money, it's like, we know that places like McCarthy and the high school and everything else have to last us, because it's gonna take a while and an effort to get to the replacement of those buildings, so I'm kind of blending a couple of themes of what's going on, is the electrification with the budget stuff, which also about how we're using the town's resources, and that's gonna be the challenge we're gonna have.
But I think that, to Pat's point, so listen, I get a commitment was made and there's a goal of 2050, but then there's real life, right?
Yep.
Nobody, I think,
Exactly.
plans in
That's
an
right.
economic slowdown or economic chaos and those types of things. But I do think it's exactly what it is. It's a roadmap, right? So, and technologies are gonna change. We have no idea what's gonna happen to electricity costs. Again, you do projects like this anywhere outside of like New England and California, there's savings because electricity is so much cheaper. But I do think, to the point of starting to look at, okay, what are some of the elements in here that we want to maybe start focusing on or keep in mind and take advantage of when we can, is not a bad thing to do. But I think that the reality of getting this completely replaced and done by 2050 is a little bit
And I
of a
just don't
long
know how
shot.
to attack it, but, you know,
I think
it's.
the start is with the Clean Energy and Sustainability
Right.
Committee. They're the ones that we've got to pivot off of.
Yeah.
We do have a committee. Yeah.
All right.
you know,
They're
yeah.
the committee that has sort of been pushing for the climate leader designation and so forth. So I think, Pat, that's how we get there, is through that
Right.
committee and circling back and trying to figure out how do we then move
And,
forward.
you
on it.
know,
we just
I mean, there's
benefited
some
from-
strategic planning to do in here
Exactly.
too, which is the critical, probably the most critical part of this, so it's, I'm sorry.
No, I was, well, I interrupted too. We just got something that now opened us up for grants too, right? From.
Well,
through
that's
the-
what-
That's the fire
That is-
station.
that's
Yeah,
$1
so it's
million.
only
That
$1
$1
million.
million
That's the thing, is
climate
it's
leader.
only $1 million, which $1 million is great. But
Right.
it's only $1 million, and when you're looking at $41 million,
Because we've made that
Right.
progress with that
And
committee, it opened us up for this opportunity. So that's
And then
good.
you've got the regulatory issues. I mean, look what's happening to the state's wind farm efforts and offshore wind.
Right.
And the other problem is, the state really hasn't advanced the electrification upgrade to the utility lines. You know, the National Grid and Eversource, the other folks are looking to do. You can have all this electrification, but you don't have the capacity in the networks. And that's the issue, is you can have electric, but if you don't have the power capabilities, you're going nowhere. And that hasn't been addressed either. So there's, like you said, those are factors that we can't control, but we're kind of walking into that environment because we have to.
So I guess hearing all that, you know, we can think about, you know, maybe there's recycling committee that goes and studies the report.
clean-
and offers
clean
some
energy,
kind
I
of-
think.
Clean
Yeah.
energy,
Yeah.
rather, I'm sorry.
strategic. I see it as like a strategic. This is, I guess, a document for the strategic planning of the town. So
Yeah,
is that committee
yeah.
still?
Yeah, because, I mean, it's all, I mean, we gotta generate revenue to do, if we were gonna try to meet this, but real life sets in, so, but I do wanna, you know, if we're gonna start talking about this and kinda, you know, getting it on the radar of the citizens, so to speak, I think I'd like to start calling it more of where we're heading, just so that people kind of understand, and we don't end up, my kids are cold, and 3 rooms here filled up with people,
Yep,
you know,
again.
complaining, so. One other question I do have for you, and I just think about this sometimes, so back to opera just for a minute. I have no doubt that we have plenty of contingency to finish all our projects, because I think I know you well enough by now to know that we have plenty of contingency, but what happens if we have contingency left over? Do we just write a check back, or do we find a way
Yes.
to
So
have
the-
our electrical
No.
piece?
Yeah,
We send the money back.
the problem, I mean, so it's a great program, but the problem is that we couldn't build in contingencies into, like, we couldn't have it, so when we executed a contract with a contractor, we couldn't build in extra contingencies into like a project budget. It has to be basically a signed contract. So what we did is so that's why we tried to align it with more fixed costs, so like, it
Okay.
was the food pantry trailer, so, I guess if in the end, if we don't spend every penny, then we'll be sending it back. But so far, we've been good about spending every penny.
So-
And then there's 18 projects remaining, and I'm just trying to, basically, we're tracking it to make sure we spend every penny.
Yeah, so, you know, if we can just look at this again, maybe by the end of the year and just, you know, just think about it a bit and maybe come back and say, what's the best approach? And maybe it is just to hand it off to strategic planning and get some advice from clean energy. But I just think it should be on everybody's radar at this point because that's the job that we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so Clean Energy has seen this report, school committee. I guess it is a very detailed report with a lot of assumptions, and so I was trying to just give a very high-level summary of it. But if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer, or Chris Haley was involved in this as well, our sustainability manager. So, I mean, it's an important document, but it leaves you, and then also this is just our school buildings. We have other buildings in town too, and so it's like, this is a piece of the puzzle. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, Christine. Okay. Next up, we have a request for a memorial bench, and Aaron took this one.
Yep.
And went with it, so I'm gonna let him tell us what this is about.
So the Charles River Wheelers, which is a biking club, reached out to us with their second offer for a memorial bench to be put up on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So last year they did one for Sandy Gray in 2023, and they recently January now, had a member of the club, Eli Post, who passed away. He was a kind of a larger-than-life figure with the Charles River Wheelers, and they're all over the state, and they're involved in a lot of kind of volunteer cycling activities. And Barbara Jacobs from that group had reached out to us, submitted an application. I had the opportunity to speak with her and get a little bit of information on why they wanted to do this, their funding and all that stuff, as well as why Chelmsford and a bench for Eli. So, Eli got sick, and his son Alex, and he used to spend a lot of time in Eli's kind of final days spending time down around Hart Pond. So having had and utilizing the pond in the area down there, and having done this with Chelmsford before for Sandy's bench, they thought it was a good opportunity to memorialize Eli in a place that was special to he and his family, being the Hart Pond area. They have raised all the money that's needed. They've done this before. They're more than willing to take whatever direction they need to from Christine, including specs, benches, how to get it all installed. They've got the coverage for all of that, and they've asked us for the approval to go ahead. And in letters of support, the bicycle committee was obviously enthusiastic about it, as was the members of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So. Again, interesting character. There's some good stories on Charles River Wheeler's website about Eli, but I think that this is a project that we should support, and we know that there's always interest in some benches along the rail trail anyways, so having somebody donate one in the memory of somebody that Hart Pond was a kind of a special part of their lives, especially towards the end, I think is a really good idea. Any questions?
They've done this before, right?
They have. They did it in 2023.
So that's a picture of the one.
Yep,
they did.
that's the existing one that they did. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that went through you, Christine, or maybe. Oh, Gary. Okay,
Gary.
Yep, Gary. Yep.
Questions, comments? No?
So, when I make a motion, we need to accept the gift and then approve the installation of the bench as presented?
Or
Okay.
approve the request? Is that like?
Because we, as a town, we're responsible for the maintenance of the rail trail right of way, so you're authorizing the installation of the bench and the
And the-
location.
okay.
And then they'll work with DPW to,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. 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 Okay I'll make a motion that this board accept the gift of a park bench to be located by Hart Pond and installed in accordance with the town of Chelmsford documentation as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I just, first of all, thank you everyone for taking the time to consider that and approve it. And told Barbara they have a meeting tomorrow night, so they're gonna kind of formally announce this tomorrow night. So I'm sure they're gonna be happy for it. Again, Christine, I'll connect you with Barbara and you guys will be good to go.
I
So,
think it
thank
was
you.
Gary Marshall, that famous director, that had a famous quote that said, "I never met a bench I didn't like." So,
Fair enough.
yeah, but if you're on the rail trail, I guess benches are good things.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. So next up, we have town manager bid awards.
One item for you this evening, this has to do with the catch basin debris and street sweeping disposal.
You guys, sorry, can you shut off the air conditioner for me? It's just, I'm having a really hard time with the audio. Thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt.
Fix that air conditioner.
Yeah, one or the other. So we have one bid award for the for catch basin and street sweeping debris. The bid amount is $102,650, and the lowest qualified bid, which had positive references, was Brighter Horizons Environmental Corporation out of Air, Mass. So I'm seeking the confirmation of the board, the select board's confirmation of the bid award to Bright Horizons as presented.
Have we used them before?
We've not used them before, but their references came back positive.
Okay.
The company that we used before mysteriously didn't bid this year, even though we thought they were going to. But the good thing is this bid price is market
low
and
enough,
came in within our budget.
Okay, anybody have any questions? I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the town manager's bid award to Brighter Horizons Environmental Corporation of 201 West Main Street, Air, in the amount of $102,650. And this would be for catch basin debris and street sweeping debris disposal contract as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thanks, Paul. And now we have town manager reports.
Yes, yeah, just a few items this evening. Most timely, most important is when we gather our next regularly scheduled meeting, the Monday after Labor Day, 3 weeks from now, you'll be signing the warrant for the October 20th fall annual town meeting, which remarkably is 2 months, just over 2 months from now. It's just amazing how quickly fall town meeting gets up on us. What I have here is the draft warrant. There's now 33, but there's actually 34 articles. I'll explain that in a moment. The only difference from what I gave you a week ago is working with Christine and discussing with the town accountant where we expect free cash to come in and certified. We've got a final list of articles. The town accountant submitted the balance sheet to the Department of Revenue last Friday, so we would expect within the next couple of weeks, and certainly before you convene again on the 8th, that we'll have a certified free cash. And basically with that, this plan envisions that. The only changes, and go back to the discussion that we just heard earlier, is we completed the McCarthy switchgear successfully this summer in terms of the system that's in there, and now we really want to pivot over to the high school. So that's the only change, is we've added an article to do the high school switchgear rehabilitation. Again, you've got a system that's 50 years old, and why the switchgear is so important is if that goes down, you don't have school. Because of the time it would take to rehab that. So why we're asking for it now at fall town meeting is we want to get that work done next summer. And the problem with waiting till Springtown meeting is you don't finish Springtown meeting till May, and you can't get the work done next summer. So anyway, so that's the addition since the previous draft warrant I sent you last week. And then the only other addition I mentioned, an additional article, is in working with the town accountant, we not only have the town's free cash, but also the enterprise fund's free cash. And so Christine came up with a great suggestion that is to do the drainage on Westford Street while the bridge is being replaced. And so there'll be an article that'll be inserted in the list of capital to fund the Westford Street drainage. And again, the funding source from that would come from the enterprise fund. So that's the only change that I expect that you'll see between now and, when you sign the warrant next meeting. So I'll be sent this to council for a legal review, because of the 34 articles, roughly half of them are zoning. And of the zoning, I think there's over a dozen just pertain to that new zoning district, the light manufacturing or transition zoning district, which I think, as I mentioned a week ago, will probably be done on their consent agenda. And that the town doesn't really want to adopt any of the articles unless you adopt all of the articles. Because as I explained to you last week, you're going from the definitions to the zoning district establishment, to the use regulation table, to the overlay districts and so forth. So that, again, I think will be considered under a consent agenda. So that's where we are with the warrant for town meeting. Again, the expectation is probably 2 sessions. We would start out hopefully rather efficiently, as we typically do, with the financial articles the first night, see where that ends. Given the bundle of the new zoning district, depending upon, that may be something that may get taken up first, the second session, because you don't want to do is start that, then continue it the next night. And so what I think would happen is there'll be some flexibility of taking some articles out of order that are independent of that, like some of the other zoning requests, like going back and revisiting the accessory dwelling unit revision that the AG recommended, or the definition of family, or special permits for schools. And also, there's also a home rule petition that I'm working with Newhouse Wildlife and the Save Chelmsford Wildlife Group to do the home rule petition for the anticoagulant rodenticides. So again, that's kind of how we'll approach town meeting in terms of that. So that's sort of the draft warrant. And while on the topic of town meeting, you see the transition here. The next item is the electronic voting system.
Can I say?
Sure,
I
go
just
ahead.
have
You
a-
got questions on the warrant? Sure. Go
Well,
ahead.
I just, a couple typos on
Sure.
page
Okay.
3.
Okay.
Article 11,
Yep.
the first sentence seems to have some extra words, or some words, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of money to the provided to the North
Oh, it
Chelmsford.
should be to be. The word "the"
Oh.
is, I caught that today. To be provided.
Okay,
To- yeah.
and Article 13,
Yep.
Board of Selectmen should be Select Board.
13. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
You see it at the bottom. Article 13.
Okay.
Article 13 says Board of Selectmen.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'll
It does
correct
on
that.
mine anyway.
Okay.
The second reference to us, not the first.
Oh, yeah,
okay,
okay.
that's what it was.
Yeah,
The first call, I
okay.
didn't catch it on the second. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
catch that. Okay, thank you. We'll catch that. Okay. If there are any other questions, as I said, it's, so relating to town meeting, as you recall, at the June special town meeting, we once again had an issue of the voting devices failing. So in working with our IT director and finance director, and James in my office, and Christina Bruce, my other assistant, we basically are pivoting to the other major provider of electronic voting systems for municipalities, Meridia. So we will be introducing that system at the special town meeting. Obviously, the fundamentals of the system are the same, meaning
Fall
Except
town
for no
meeting.
the
Wi-Fi.
fall town meeting. Yeah, it doesn't
That's
rely
the
on
best
Wi-Fi.
feature, no
Right.
Wi-Fi.
But
needed,
but in terms of the
because that's
devices,
our problem.
right, in terms of the devices, there'll be 3 buttons to push. 1 yes, 2 no, 3 abstain. So that's how it's going to be. And the key is, right, the whole, what we believe is the solution is no Wi-Fi. And more importantly, the issue that we had with our current provider is they were working off of the Microsoft PowerPoint platform for the device. And we think, or how they explained the issue was, when Microsoft would update their software versions of PowerPoint, they would have issues trying to work the bugs out. Meridia, we explained to them what was going on. They understood and know what was going on. They devised their own solution that's independent of Microsoft. And that's what we think is the key.
And
And
2
the-
years
and
ago,
if-
I remember
yes.
Ted went in and did a
Yep.
big upgrade to the
Yep.
Wi-Fi, because
The
there
interference.
wasn't enough Wi-Fi to support 165 members clicking at the same time.
Exactly.
So it fixed it, but it didn't really fix it.
Right. So,
It
so
doesn't work on Wi-Fi. How does it?
it does, it's
Bluetooth
the
or
issue of the, it's basically, it's a,
Its own network.
our radio frequency protocol, basically is an RF protocol that works, and avoids the issue of the Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah.
Hey, as long as it
Well,
works.
we know of other communities in the Commonwealth that use this system, Dedham being the most similar with representative town meeting, with the, the voter identification scrolls that we have, and no issues, all good. So what it will be is it'll be a slightly different appearance. It's like if you were using, you remember when we were, I don't want to date ourselves, but remember when you were using, Word versus Word Perfect, there was always some little.
Just add it there at night, add it there at night, and
But
they'll
no,
get
the
it
key,
figured out.
what we'll do is the first night we'll explain to folks, if briefly at the beginning of the meeting, that these are the new systems, this is how it works. And we will have a representative of Meridia at the town meeting, so that way, if issues arise at the first session, we'll work through the bugs. But, again, this isn't new to them, it's not new to us, it should hopefully work well. Again, it'll just be different. For example, one of the differences is their system doesn't incorporate the clock in the software, so the moderator will run the 30-second clock with, as you know, like he does during debate. So, and then those type of similarities, but you still have the detailed voting reports and everything else afterwards. So, again, we've made it, we're making a change, and we hope that this puts the electronic voting difficulties in the past behind us.
Is there any way
Mhm.
on the display,
Mhm.
instead of having it completely alphabetic, could we have it alphabetic within precinct and have precincts? Is there a reason why not?
I think the problem is some people don't know who their precinct, what
Well,
precinct
but
they're
it's,
in.
but it, the people
Yeah.
watching at home are more
Right.
likely, well, when
Yeah.
when I pick up my,
Yeah, you have to tell them
you have
your
to tell
name.
'em, or they
Yeah.
tell me what
Yeah,
precinct I'm in. Because somebody watching at home, it would be so hard for them to try to pick out the 15 people in there when they're scattered all over the place.
right. But the other challenge is being able to display it. So it may come down to, I'll ask them, Pat, but it may be an issue of how do you display it? Because you're probably talking only, one or two screens as opposed to, in a 30-second period, you want to be able to see the votes in real time. And the problem is if you have, I'll look at it,
Okay,
but it may not be
alright.
possible. But
I
I'll
don't know
ask.
why it wouldn't, but,
So that'll be a change, but again, we hope that it, especially where we're doing a lot of zoning. I mean, if there's ever a town meeting, this has got to work. We need it to work here. All right, and then the next item on my report is an update on the fire station construction project. Last Tuesday, the permanent building committee met. They reviewed these presentations. I can't do the justice that the architect did or the project manager, but I'll give you and people watching this meeting an idea of where things stand today on this project. This slide just shows you where the stations are located, so there's no sense dwelling on that. This is the existing Roberts Field station, see the fire station up in the top right there, and that's the entire property, including Roberts Field. This is the existing building. Again, I'm not going to spend time on things that we're already familiar with. Obviously, they've done extensive survey work, wetlands delineations, and so forth, because the footprint of the new buildings, in both cases, is going to be altered because of the expansion in size. And then here's the proposed design. This is obviously the exterior. From the roof level above, as we mentioned, solar facility, the ability to get in and out of the bays, drive through, in terms of being able to pull a vehicle out, on either side of the building. That's, again, architectural. This is the whole issue of the screening. One of the things that is critical with Roberts Field Station at West Fire Station, it's very visible as you come down, coming from the ice, I guess you call it the ice cream stand or Spencer's store, whatever you want to relate it to. It's very visible. And so the idea is to have sufficient screening so that it doesn't detract from the park at Roberts Field. Again, especially with the larger envelope of the building in terms of footprint. This is the interior spacing, apparatus bays, decontamination areas, and then your transition areas, and then your bunk areas, and then followed by your living quarters and fitness room. That's your basic station, one level in the case of West Fire Station. Again, the mechanical will be on the roof. There'll be a roof hatch for access to the roof for care of the solar panels and the mechanical roof. This is an overhead illustration of what the building may look like.
Did they ever figure out wasn't the generator part of the problem?
No,
With
that's
the
gonna be in South. That's gonna be in South Station. It's really not a problem here at Roberts Field because you've got plenty of room.
Yeah,
for
wasn't that
the
part of the
installation.
initial, like,
So if we get to the,
moving it?
this is the north elevation of the building, the west elevation. They thought was to soften the appearance, to install wood panels in addition to the metal along the siding of the building. And so again, this is an illustration of what it would look like from the front. You can see the use of wood tones. It's a fire station, no matter what you do, and the idea is to bring in natural lighting. So there's not much you can do at the apparatus bay. The idea is to make the, quarters and office area and decontamination area look in keeping with somewhat of a residential area.
It looks
This
like
is-
real tight on the side where the water is, like they
Oh,
gotta
yeah,
get.
Oh,
there's
there's
you're- you're-
variances on both of these.
Yeah, well, we're outside of the wetland buffer zone.
Yeah.
But there's no variances required on this station, on 3. 5 will,
There
5
definitely
will.
be. But
And there's a side, and there's the ID.
They gotta drive through, around the building though. to
Well,
the
not
bathroom.
really. You're really
gonna
gonna, yeah, you're really gonna back into both stations. I mean, because you
Like
don't.
from the street. They're
because
not
you-
gonna be because right now you can pull in and drive around the side of the building,
You can, but
right?
not with the apparatus. The apparatus is too large.
But you won't
And
need
this-
setbacks on South for sure.
Yeah.
And-
No, I'm talking about Station
And
3
and even
though.
that, I question how DEP's gonna
Like,
look at it. Yeah,
How
all
are
of
they
that.
gonna drive through there to get into those
Exactly.
back
Yeah.
bays? Like, that doesn't, there's
Yeah.
no room at all.
Well, right now,
this-
it's
No, it's
an,
gonna take an elaborate storm drain system because you're gonna have to catch anything that could possibly get into that water.
right, there'll be a fully updated storm system. Again, we have impervious material there.
In the wall.
The wetlands have expanded, like anything else. So again, this is where we are in
Well,
design
the other
stage.
thing too is, I mean, because I went through these thoroughly the other day, and I'm like, I mean, I'm all for different applications of different materials and things like that, but our mantra has always been build them for 50 years. You know what I mean? So I don't want to have to see Christine going and painting that place 10 years from now. We should be picking materials that will, okay, so the metal panels, they come with Kynar paint that's usually 30-year guarantee or something like that. I'd rather see more products like that, but the last thing we want to do is have more buildings to go paint.
But the problem we
Or
have,
seal,
and the
or-
pushback we had at the meeting is from the residential abutters, particularly in South. And this is something,
Because in South it's tight. Yeah,
It's
they have
tight.
a lot of residential butters.
right,
But it's brick right now. Why not look at just doing a brick building?
brick would be costly, as
Well,
we
I
know.
understand that,
It's why we didn't do brick.
But you gotta
that-
look at the long-term
Right.
cost of maintenance as well as, your upfront costs
Oh, they
too.
don't like the, yeah, they don't like the look of it. I see what you're saying.
Okay, so we'll paint.
So
we'll
they're
add
gonna
more
have,
buildings to paint.
they're gonna have the ability to go through, but they're not gonna use that. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is you'll have the ability at
This
West Fire
one.
Station to pull your vehicle out. As you can see, you'll have the ability to pull a vehicle out, but you're not gonna be able to drive around the building and drive through.
So basically, they
So
won't.
you'll back in, and then therefore, if you need the back of the vehicle out of the building, you can back the vehicle out.
They'll have to
If
back
you
out
like,
to
if
the
you're
west
doing
or
maintenance or whatever, but you're not gonna do a drive, it's,
Okay,
and the reason is
Are
the
they not doing that now? Now they have to drive around back. They drive the
Yeah,
trucks
but
around
see
the
what
back
they'll
of the
do
building,
is,
right?
like, they'll put the boat at the back.
Exactly.
You know, they'll put the boat, they'll put a trailer
right.
behind the apparatus that goes
Where are they
to
gonna
the
park?
call. Huh?
Where are they gonna park their cars?
My employees park in the back here.
There's,
Yeah, that's all
Is there
parking.
That's all
Parking
parking,
back
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's gonna be tight back there when the
Yeah, it
employees.
I
does.
can show you the parking. You can see there's parking back here for the employees.
that's, how many parking spaces are back there? 6? I mean,
Well, that's, you're only talking
We have a couple of
4
guys.
men on and,
yeah.
We
if-
have more
if-
parking in the front for people who visit the building. The other thought that may come long-term is, do we really need to keep the emergency management building there? If it's something, because it really isn't heavily utilized, and it's probably something you could relocate
Yeah.
either to Station 4 in East Chelmsford or someplace else, if the town at some point needed some space back there, because, again,
It's just tight.
it's
Yeah,
tight. Right.
it looks tight.
because the issue is you're expanding your size of your building, but you're not expanding your lot size. And the reason you can't expand your lot size is because practically you've got the parking lot and everything else there. You also got Article 97 issues because that's parkland.
Yeah.
well, let's see the budgets.
Yeah. So that's where we are with 3, and then just more discussion was on 5. Here's where we are in 5. You can see it's a very tight lot, tight to the lot line. These are all non-conforming today, very tight corridors around the building. You got one-story neighbors.
Is that Paul's house?
Paul's
Right
house
there, or
is
is he
right
two
here.
over?
That's
No,
Paul's
he's
right there.
next to
He's
it.
right next to it,
That's
okay,
right there.
that's what I
And
thought.
Paul was
Right.
at the meeting last Tuesday.
So, and that's the new.
So this
Is
is,
that the
this shows you the new footprint. The property line is in red. We're 3 feet from the property line.
There's your variance.
It's tight. There's your
This
variance.
looks huge. When you look at this picture,
Hmm.
it looks really wide. But when you look at that doesn't look that much wider than the existing.
And you've got a
building.
2-story layout here, again, solar. So there's sort of an illustration of the 2-story building. This is Paul Erickson's house here. Got a neighbor here, you got a neighbor back here, and you also got one way back here at the back. Neighbors was at the meeting. Some thoughts on how to provide privacy and scale. Again, the idea of wood panels to soften the appearance. There's a question of color, which will be looked at. The other thing is you can see for privacy, they have these, what you call sawtooth windows, because otherwise, back of Paul Erickson's yard, you'd have 6 dorm windows looking out into his backyard. See, the idea is if you do these sawtooth windows, it gets natural lighting in, but it alters the
Yeah,
view.
We gotta look at the
from those.
cost
That's
of
what we're looking at
that
the cost, but
versus-
just-
I mean, we had the
right.
same problem over here that we ended up putting shades in the,
Yep.
in the bay for the neighbors beyond.
Exactly.
So there's different ways to skin that cat that are less expensive.
So there's an illustration of the front of the building from Acton Road. One of the concerns that was expressed at the meeting by neighbors and committee member was, well, gee, it doesn't look, why isn't there a pitched roof? It doesn't look residential. The problem is if you put a pitched roof, you're gonna have a higher scale of the building. And then the other thing is we're also trying to design it to put the solar on the roof as well as the HVAC equipment and other material. The other challenge with this building is, by code, it requires an elevator because it's a 2-story building. And this building includes an elevator, which adds cost to the building. And then the question became, well, why can't you take the elevator out? Why not get a variance from the state? And the architect's answer is, and the clerk's answer is, well, you can get a variance from the state, but you can't get a variance from the federal Americans with Disabilities
Yeah, I
Act.
was gonna say that's
So therefore, if someone files a protest and you've only got 3 feet to the lot line, how are you gonna add an elevator afterwards?
Yeah.
So right now, the plan is the building contains an elevator. This is the view from the back of the building. Again,
Is
There's
upstairs
ways,
just the
there's,
dorms?
there's ways around that, Paul. Just
What's
so you
upstairs?
know.
because they're
Just so you
they're
know.
doing it, Billerica is doing the same problem, same issue with their building, and they're building a fire station in Billerica now, and again, the different architect, same issue, same demand,
What did they
same
decide?
request. and they're putting in an elevator
They are.
in Barica. So again.
They're
plenty-
adding one after the fact.
No,
Yeah, which is-
in the design, because they're building it
Oh,
now. They're
okay.
designing it
Yeah,
now.
which I was like, which is what we don't want to have to do.
Up in North Barica. Again, the idea of natural lighting into the building, natural lighting, the idea of the soft wood tones for the appearance. Again, you have the ability for access. This is how it would look from Paul Erickson's yard, and that's the idea of you not being able to see otherwise he'd have no privacy. And you can see lots of landscaping. Because of the 3 feet from the lot line, we actually have to install the landscaping on the abutter's property. And also a screening fence, because again, for privacy.
Does he?
Yeah, they're
he
amenable
opposed
to
to
it.
it, or is he-
all right?
Yeah, he's I mean, Gary has
He's a
spoke with
public
him,
safety
continues to
guy,
speak.
I know.
Public
but-
safety guy, but,
He's happy to let
Yeah.
them put the trees in.
so this is where we are. We're awaiting the detailed cost estimate for this phase. What I was informed the end of last week was they believe that they can do this at this point in time, move to design development without doing value engineering, which is a long-winded way of saying they believe that we're within the budget contingencies and allowances for the 25 million for this project. The way you get there is a couple things. One is there's no temporary facilities during the construction. So the original project budget had funding for construction and operation of temporary facilities.
So 5 get shut down for
Five
the
and
duration?
three get shut down for duration.
And 3.
And 3.
What's the duration?
Your construction is through
Realistically.
one winter. It's realistically about 17 months.
So at that
Yes,
point, you wouldn't do them at the same time?
Yeah, you would.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
So you'd have two.
You basically,
you'd have two
would
stations
yeah,
shut down for
yeah.
17 months.
Because you
we'd
want
have
to take
to-
the efficiencies of the scale of construction, because we're going to bid it as one project. And the idea would be you get better bid results if you've got trades and work going on with the two buildings that are very similar. If you delay one station and sequence it by phasing, you're going to you're going to increase the cost it significantly and lose your efficiencies.
What is, I don't know, what does the fire department think about having two stations shut down for
Yeah.
17 months? Is that a,
Yeah,
that seems like that would
3
be a.
stations for 17
two-
months?
two
3
stations.
stations? What a novel
Yeah.
approach.
I don't know, I'm curious.
So
if
we
you
have
one.
discussed this, we actually have done a 3-station model back in 2001.
Yeah, as part
Yeah.
of this discussion.
We didn't do
right?
it for long, but we tried it when Jack Parrott was chief.
Oh, you
that-
actually did have,
We actually had 3.
oh.
We ran engines 1, 2, and 4. Closed 3, closed 5. We only did it for about 3 weeks. So in this scenario, we'll have 1 open, obviously 2, and then we'll have engine 4 open. There's going to be some challenges, but when you look at most of engine 5's calls, they're in the center. Down Littleton Road.
So
the
that's
mobile
how
home
they're doing
community.
it. Because there was money in the original budget for relocation, for
Correct.
temporary facilities, renting a spot for, for 5. 3, we felt like maybe we could stay there. So they've taken that money, reapportioned it to cover the overruns.
If you recall the studies, we looked at not only first response, we also looked at the second response.
Right.
So that's where, so engine 5
So you'd
crew
be on
could
second
conceivably work out of the center. Engine 3, their calls come from Palm Manor, Drum Hill, and backing up engine 2. So the thought process, and we're not locked in right now, but the thought process would be to relocate them to engine 2.
So
to
like,
pick
I
up
know
that
in the
cost.
long term, you don't like the, I feel like the idea of 3 engines is not ideal, but for 17 months, you don't have a lot of concerns about that?
I mean, we'll pivot if we have to, but I mean, I think the having the 3 years of study, 3 years of data that we looked at, looking at not only the primary response call, but the secondary calls, I think kind of supports putting the staffing where we're looking to do it.
And I think the idea would be, you want to design a building for 50 years, you'd hate to be saying, oh, well, we took significant amount of money and built occupied temporary quarters that is now gone with no.
Oh, yeah, no, building temporary
Exactly.
quarters, I mean,
Yeah.
that does seem
And-
like
and
a
operating
waste
Oh,
of
but
money,
that
but.
just, to me, that just brings the question back up. If we can live with 3 for 18
Then
months,
why aren't we
then
just
why
having
aren't
3?
we
I don't think
looking
I
at
Yes.
just
saying they could
living
live
with 3?
I think there was a plan to,
I mean, there's challenges.
To
I mean,
staff this.
let's put it out there. I mean, you're pulling engine 5 away from Hard Pond. You pull in engine 5.
Oh, I understand,
From
but,
responding to, they go through Westford to go 495 north. So I'm not saying there's gonna be challenges.
no
and
doubt,
we'll do what we
no
can.
doubt. But if we
But,
can
I
live with
mean-
it for 18 months,
Right.
we could probably live with it.
I mean, the manager mentioned the elevator. We didn't factor that cost. When Weston and Sampson designed this, that cost wasn't in there, the elevator. But the bigger one was engine 3. We didn't have a new garage apparatus bay. This design calls for that.
I know.
So it's bigger, it's gonna be more expensive, but I think it's the right call.
But yeah, so my question to you is, you're not overly concerned about operating out of three engines for 17 months?
Looking at the data, no.
Yeah.
No.
You guys
It'll
can
address the
manage
issue of
it.
firefighter safety for 18 months, because
Well-
then they'll be
There you
showing
go.
up,
There
with
you
4
go.
people, you know,
Yeah.
for major, because they'll all show up simultaneous. The idea of the 5 stations, remember, was 70% of our calls are
Response.
medical or accident related.
Yeah.
And the idea was, and is you'd get somebody there quickly
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
Well,
in
that's why
terms
the
of
response
But
time
I'm,
for
s-
the.
health and
listen,
safety.
I'm good, you're
Yeah.
gonna force me to say it.
Not gonna go there, but that's the.
You know, I mean, I said it back then,
Yeah.
you know, that study committee was all firefighters, 100%, with the exception of the chair of this board. And everybody else was firefighter related. I don't think it had good representation from people in town that might have been able to live with just an ambulance service in 5, a smaller building that, you know, could be done, or anything like that. So I still don't agree with the results of that study. I do hope that it comes in on budget, because if it doesn't, I think that's gonna present some real problems.
So we'll see. I mean, again, we're at schematic phase. They'll move forward. In a couple months, we'll be back with design development, which is when your real cost estimate hits the road. And they're already thinking of what would be some value engineering items. One that was mentioned is, you know, do we need radiant heat in the floors in the stations? It's nice, but is it absolute in terms
Yeah.
of the buildings? That could be one of the items, because that is a cost as well, installing radiant heat just, you know, in the floor of the apparatus bay, or do you just go?
Thanks, Chief. You can sit if you want. Thank you. I just wanted your opinion on that.
Anyway,
Thank
so those
you.
That's where we are, and again, as soon as we get the schematic cost estimate, we'll get it out to you. I've not been involved in the review of the schematic cost estimate. All I was told by the owner's project manager is that they don't believe that we need to do value engineering at this stage of the project, because they are doing different.
And you haven't seen anything,
Permutate.
Gary, right? Anything budget-wise from Hamdi or anybody? Okay.
We know the effort is ongoing, we just haven't seen the results.
Okay.
All right, so that's where we are.
just a question on
Yeah.
that, on the design, because I may have a question later on when we see this. So did we basically go to the architects and say, give us something that looks like the neighborhood, and they came back with this?
No,
No, that's what architects do.
That's what no, but also they came, to be fair, they came with us with what was it, 4 different types of designs.
Yeah.
And we, meaning myself, I'll take it, I'm the manager. But I obviously do it with consultation from my professional staff, but
Right.
I'll own it.
Yeah.
We said, we want a flat roof station.
Yeah.
Because the goals of the town were to, you know, again, looking at the issues of solar, looking at the issues of the tight envelopes, and the idea with the flat roof building, and the fact that our other buildings are flat roofed.
Right.
So we're not afraid of a flat roof building. And the other thing is, if you then go with a pitched roof, like you could make a more of a gambrel and type of thing. They showed us pictures of other stations, and we can find them. They're on the Cape and other places. The problem is, you're now, think about it, when you go down Acton Road, okay, which is the one that was the most concerned, those are 1-story buildings. We're now installing a 2-story station.
Yeah.
If you went to a pitched roof, you'd have 2
3
pitched,
stories.
I just think it would.
It's a 3-story.
Exactly, and I just like, no, we're not going there. So therefore, when and Gary went out and met with the neighbors, and so when we show up at the meeting, we get pushback saying, well, why aren't you doing a more residential type of building? And we're like, because it's a fire station.
Yeah, you wanted to look like a fire, I think you wanted to look like a fire station.
I'm
was
not arguing with you,
I
I'm
was
just
not
telling you.
picking. I was just kind of curious, did they come up with this, or did they give us a
No, they
portfolio
give you
of things to look
Typically,
at?
what happens, Aaron,
Again,
is, you
just
know,
not, everything's boxy today, it's not my
every
style, so I was
architect-
wondering if there were choices, that's all.
every
It is
architect
what it
has
is.
their own style, and so typically, they're gonna take the managers, we want a flat roof, we want X, Y, Z, but they have a statement to make when they do a design. It's like art to them. So they have a statement, and, You may disagree with that statement, you might like that statement.
It was
It's
by
just-
no,
Yeah, but
it was
this-
by no means other than just a simple question, how do we arrive at these as potential
But
choices?
this might
That's it.
also be a trend in fire stations in general, because
probably
people are
is.
putting solar panels. We're
As
not
long
the
as it's
only
a fire
town doing
station
it,
that
right?
works
Like,
and it's
with
within our
those
budget
initiatives.
and it serves the needs of the firefighters in the community, I'm good with it.
Well, I'll go to, I'll be at the next PBC meeting, and I'm all about long-term maintenance and everything else, and, now we're adding more.
I added the same thing, like, why, quite frankly, I'm like, well, why are we introducing wood? Because of the maintenance issues, and again, it was an aesthetic issue.
And
It
I
was an
haven't
aesthetics
seen,
issue.
I haven't seen the budget, so to me, I want to make sure they're putting the right roof system on and not cutting a corner there that costs us 20 years from now,
Yep.
because we didn't pay the money for the right roof system to try to get some other beautification in there. So that's why I'm waiting for the budget, because I really want to see what's included, how they've looked at it so far. And it won't have the detail that I'm looking for, but it will be enough detail to say, no, don't cut this corner over here, because that will cost the town a bunch of money 20 years from now. So those are the things I'm looking at when I review these things, and they're about giving us a piece of art and a facility, that, helps them sell the next one.
It looks nice in their portfolio.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it will have regulatory review, they will have to go to conservation, they will have to go to Board of Appeals, they will have to go to Planning Board, so there'll be plenty of time for community input in terms of, but again, what was most concerning to the abutters, as you can imagine, was aesthetics. They obviously, they all appreciate the fire department, they want a good facility, they want a long-term facility, but, they obviously are concerned about what they're gonna look at as abutters. And so that's why you see the big, major emphasis on screening, fencing, privacy to the butters. So anyway, we'll continue to update you as this moves along. That's where we are. And then the last thing under my report this evening is ADU status report. It's been just over 6 months since the accessory dwelling unit became effective on February 2nd. And a lot of people are wondering what's going on, where are we at? And just real briefly, I reached out to our building commissioner, and as you can see in his memo, 5 permits have been issued for accessory dwelling units, and there are 8 applications in the permitting process right now. And when I did ask, which isn't in here, I said, well, does this tend to be commercial interest? Or he said, no, these are generally family things. And also people who are converting what were, sort of
Illegal.
unauthorized.
Garages, or, yeah.
So that-
Non-conforming.
Non-conforming uses. So anyway, and so that's where we are with ADUs, 'cause I know there's been discussion about, well, where are we? So that's where we are on ADUs after 6 months. And as
13.
you can see on the warrant, there was a slight technical amendment to the bylaw to a result of the Attorney General's review, but it's not substantive. So that concludes my report for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have select board, or appointments. Okay, so we do still have the appointment for the Managed Growth Strategy Task Force. And I know last week we kind of suggested that Aaron might wanted to do this, or I suggested that Aaron might want to do this because he's already the liaison for the planning board and he's heavily involved in a lot of those things. And Aaron told me earlier that he would like to do that, to be appointed to the Managed Growth Strategy Task Force.
Yeah,
So,
I'll do it.
okay,
Closes the loop for me.
okay. So, yeah, so we can go ahead and appoint him, and I think we do need a motion to do that, right? Do we
Sure.
make a motion for select board
It
appointment?
doesn't really say who makes the appointment,
I
whether
think
it's
it
the
can be a
chair or
chair.
the.
If we're
or the-
appointing our own, one
Yeah.
of the select board to a committee?
We often do, just
Yeah.
like we do so many, the only one that we have to vote on is NEMCOG. But like LRTA, you make the appointment, Housing
Yeah.
Advisory Board, you make the appointment,
Okay,
Community Preservation, you make the
Well, it's
appointment.
similar liaisons, right?
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah. Okay, so then I don't
CPC,
think we
yeah.
need to take a vote, because Aaron, you've expressed that you're
Yeah, I'll do it.
a go. All right, great, thank
Thanks,
you.
Aaron.
Thank you for that.
I was enthusiastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, and then we have a town manager appointment.
Yeah, for the CCA Town Hall Advisory Committee, seeking your confirmation appointment of Peter Dews for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2028.
And he'll be listening.
And he'll be listening, yeah. He might cut us off if we don't put him on.
Okay. Okay. So I will take a motion for that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's appointment of Peter Dews, his appointment to the CCA Town Hall Advisory Committee for a 3-year term ending 6/30/28 as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Pete. Thank you. Okay, next up we have meeting minutes. So we have some meeting minutes here from August 11th. And does anybody have any comments or corrections? No? Okay, if not, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the meeting minutes from August 11th, 2025 as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we are up to liaison reports and referrals. So we'll just go through. Pat Maloney, do you have anything you wanna
Just
share?
quickly, Permit Building Committee met last week. I wasn't able to attend that, but we did get plans subsequently for the 2 fire stations. We're awaiting budgets right now for that. So there'll be much discussion going forward about those. And then inadvertently, I suggested that the school building committee was last Thursday night. It's this Thursday night, 6 o'clock at the meeting room at the school administration building. So we'll be up there 6 o'clock Thursday night, and meeting with the MSBA on August 26th, and hopefully we get a read on what they think of our architects that proposed to us, and so we'll see how it goes. I think we had 6
Six, yeah.
responses, so better than 3. So we'll see how it goes. That's all I have.
Thanks.
Yeah, just last Friday, we had 4 new police officers graduate from the police academy, and this morning they were all sworn in as officers in the town of Chelmsford, and they are Mosab Abdalbiam, Cooper Brown, Jack Cirillo, and Barry Doucette. And we want to note that Cooper Brown was the top gunner in his graduating class, so watch out for him if you see him around
Yeah,
town.
let's hope he never has to use it.
And with the name like Cooper Brown, that seems, that seems
How about
appropriate.
that? Yeah, so congratulations to these guys, and you'll be seeing them around town soon.
Thanks.
So,
Jeff?
Most of my committees are quiet right now. I watched the conservation meeting the other night, the next day, and I know they were discussing the changes to the Coles parking area, and they were very encouraged about changing the draining. I mean, none of that's been touched since '74, so they seem to be really genuinely excited about the updates that they were proposing. So that's about all I got.
All right, I had just 2 meetings since the last one. The COA, which I didn't attend live, but got an update from Bob afterwards. He reported out that he went to go visit the brand-new senior center in Littleton, and although it's, in his words, very beautiful building, the functional aspects render it not as nice as ours. He wasn't a big fan of the concept. And his other comment to note is he's very pleased to see Article 10, which is the acoustics article on there. So he's eager for continued support on that. And then on Wednesday was the planning board meeting, which is now in a 3-week recess. So those long Wednesday meetings are on a pause now. But they followed up on 274. Bill Ricker Road, which is, there's a plot of land right next to
The old
Sunny Acres there, that they want to put in a facility for adult folks that have disabilities like autism and those types of things. So it seems,
Like a day
yeah, like a
facility?
daycare. So they'll kind of operate 8:30 to 5:30 type of thing. So that's ongoing.
There's
There's-
a big need, I think, for that.
Yeah, and the
shortage.
woman that runs it's very experienced, this Till Group. So she was there to present it. So that looks like that's going to continue to process forward. Then 152 Sedman Street, which is the Chelmsford portion of the landfill that you can see from
Yeah, the Glenview
Route 3.
landfill. Yeah.
Glenview, thank you. They're going to, there's a proposal to cover that entire area with solar. So, and there were some residents there to speak about it and had some questions, but generally, the project seemed pretty positive. And I forget who it was, maybe Anita asked about, how do we get some of that energy? And Propagation was interested in figuring out something, so we'll keep an eye out on that. The Chelmsford Mall had a continuation, so that as well as the 191 and 195 Riverneck Road. And then they spent some time talking about the managed growth strategy and kind of their application status with that. Like I said, they're on break now for 3 weeks, and they're working diligently to get town meeting stuff prepped. So I know they're interested in getting a bunch of those articles kind of together at once. And that's what I had for updates.
Thanks. And I don't have anything. So with that, I will take a motion for
Okay,
executive
I will
session.
make a motion that we adjourn to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding national class action opioid settlement with Purdue Pharma bankruptcy and Sackler settlement and new settlements with 9 additional opioid defendants not to return.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we do a roll call for this, right? Pat Maloney?
Aye.
And Pat Williams?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And with that, we are adjourned to executive session.